you very much, Maria, for that warm welcome. And it's really a pleasure to be with the family in the Middle East. Um, I think we all meet each other in Madhuban. So Madhuban's home for all of us, but it's also the advantage of technology that for a few hours at least, we can zap over virtually to other parts and be with our brothers and sisters in other corners. So it's lovely to be with all of you. I really like the topic that you all chose for this evening. And I think it's beautiful because it aligns very lovely with Baba's Murli on Sunday. Baba highlighted on Sunday how he gives us these two authorities. It was translated as the authority of righteousness and the authority of self-mastery. And this aspect of righteousness, the Hindi word is dharma. And I'd like to just start off by unpacking a little bit on dharma, because it's not just righteousness in terms of ethics and morals, but it's also about our deeper principles and the fortune we have that Baba directly, molds us with these very high principles, that we then begin to use that to claim that self-mastery that's needed. And it's that connection that helps us to usher in the new world. I was, looking at this analogy in Bhakti. In Bhakti, there's the analogy that's used of a yagya. And the yagya symbolizes this thing that every time they did a yagya, it was so that you bring in a new energy, you usher in a new era, you create, you elevate atmosphere, etc. And what we are engaged in, what Baba has come to create, is the Mahayagya, the greatest yagya, because it's the transformation of the whole world. And it is also about the establishment of the age of truth. And so for this Mahayagya, to usher in this age of truth, the offering that's needed for it. And so for me, this thing of aligning to truth is really aligning to these principles that Baba has put in place for us, so that we can offer what is needed in order to create and usher in this new age of truth. So the first thing that, of course, is like at the heart of everything that we are and what we do, and that has created this Mahayagya, is really this principle of purity. And I'd like to unpack, because when Baba spoke of this authority of Dharma, he said it's of truth and purity. And so to unpack that, and so looking at that, it's seeing really, I think when I think of purity, the words that I like to associate with purity is firstly cleanliness. And it's not just physical cleanliness that we taught, but I think what Baba really starts working on us is really the cleansing of the heart. That to leave no trace of any bitterness, to leave no trace of any sorrow in the heart. So that's the first aspect of, like, to align myself with truth, I have to start cleaning the heart. Because it's whatever sits in the heart, inevitably the mind follows. You know, we can try really hard to, have, seed stage yoga and whatever we want to try, with our heads, and try and concentrate and try these drills. But we can never sustain that focus unless the heart is cleaned. Because whatever is like holding in the heart or sitting in the heart, inevitably the mind gets pulled there. So that's the first work that we have to do. And that is really to become the honest observer of the self, and release the heart of the things that have accumulated within. And so that's the one aspect that I like looking at, and to really keep working and keep massaging that heart to cleanse it. The second aspect that for me links up with this whole aspect of truth, and that is that if I'm being truthful, I'm transparent. And that is also, again, that it's not I show one thing, but I'm feeling another and I'm thinking another. But it's that kind of alignment internally, inside out, being the same. And it's very much our journey, because, as Brahmins, we are given the tools. Our Murli is our main sort of focus and our main base. But utilizing that, it's like we become angels. And an angel is like transparent. Angel is not flesh and bone. Angel is light. So I think this whole aspect of really seeing that inside out, there is a transparency. I need to be like an open book that anyone can read. And I need to feel completely comfortable that whoever wants to read can read. And I think what really helps to really create that level of transparency is, in a way, how much do I really keep the Murli as my reference point. I'm finding that has been, we know it, but to really consciously keep checking in my day that I'm not holding on to any thought or any impression. And if there is something that's come in, to almost turn it around with Baba's Murli. So the transparency aspect of it, inside out, to be completely light, to be an open book, so that there's nothing to hide, nothing to feel uncomfortable with, but that, I am, and I feel completely comfortable in being who I am. The third aspect of truth that I would like to share is something that I'd like to share through a story. And this is a story from Bhakti. There was a saint, and he was sitting under a tree and just contemplating. And a deer runs past and goes off into the bushes. And after a few minutes, a hunter comes, and the hunter asks the saint, "Have you seen that deer?" And the saint points in the opposite direction. So the hunter runs off into the opposite direction. So a disciple of the saint that was sitting there was saying, "My Lord, but that wasn't true," because he was surprised, And then the saint replies, "Truth means not to harm." And I love that definition, because even the whole term of satyagraha is embedded in that definition. It's to do that which does not cause harm. So it connects very beautifully in a way that where there's truth, there's also compassion, there's love. It's like love and truth are the two sides of the same coin. And that was a very important um, realization for me many years ago, because sometimes, we feel, oh, I have to say the truth, then we can be a bit confrontational about things. But if there isn't an intention of love behind it, that's not true. In some ways, you're just stating things um, with an agenda. But if there's love, then whatever you have to share will be shared in a way that won't cause harm, but it will actually allow for some level of growth and benefit. So always to check, and I think that was the whole thing, that to check that where I'm coming from, there's love, but there's compassion as well. There's so truth is not just about stating facts, but it's like sharing in a way that has the attitude and the intention of compassion and love as well. So that's another aspect of truth, that a definition that I like. And then the next aspect of truth that I would like to share on, and that is what has been our theme for this month in the Avyak signals, the whole aspect of humility. And I used to like, Daddy used to always say that truth will always reveal itself. You never have to prove the truth. So when I am, focused, when I am aligning myself with Baba Srimad, it will reveal itself. I don't have to defend my actions. I don't have to, force it through. But it's in my dharna that it reveals itself. So that's another aspect of truth that I like, that with this truth, it reveals itself. Truth is humble. Truth doesn't need to use force, but truth emerges and reflects itself. And the last aspect that I wanted to share as well is this whole thing that the way Baba defines truth. And Baba in one Avyak Murli said, truth is that which is eternal. Everything else is subjected to change, but they are like those eternal principles that are there irrespective of time, irrespective of situations. They still are valid. It's like when you put a peg in the ground, it's stable, it anchors everything. So as Baba said, truth is that which is eternal. So from that perspective, just looking at some of the elements that Baba tells us, that no matter what, it doesn't change. And we can always use that as a reference point for ourselves. So this first aspect of the eternity of the soul, and we know it, but to always watch and observe the self and see to what extent is my thinking and my attitude in this moment aligned with these eternal principles. And the first one is that I am a soul that is eternal. Because, subtly, how often there's aspects of worry that comes up. Subtly, there's aspects of comparison that comes up. Subtly, there could be aspects of, um, criticisms, or just having a low sense of self. All of these elements is because in that moment, I haven't aligned myself with this truth that God has given me, that I am an eternal soul. And and so doing that, how it brings me back to just staying aligned with that feeling of clarity that it provides for the soul. The second aspect that I wanted to take up, and it was linked in with this morning's Murli, Baba was sharing about how the Gita is the trunk and then the branches, and how every faith is a different branch. And it's this principle that Baba is highlighting to us, that there is one God, the Father of all souls. And when we can begin to see that we are connected, that sense of connection creates a feeling of belongingness. No matter who is in which part of which branch, it doesn't matter, but that we are part of one family. And this feeling of belongingness means that whatever I receive, I share. And so that element in itself is also aligning me with what Baba wants. Like, the new world is created, and we are the roots of that new world. So the attitude we need to hold in a way is that all belong to me. And I'm feeling that, as the cycle's getting more crazy, and we do see odd behavior and whatever, it is so important for us to maintain this attitude that we all belong, we one family. Many years ago, when I was in Namibia, and there was a magazine there called Sister Namibia. And in that magazine, they highlighted a lot of the issues that women were facing in the country, aspects of discrimination and gender violence and all of that. And I remember I was, reading through this and feeling like the injustices that occur in the world, and especially towards women. And when I was sitting in yoga, I had such an important realization. And that was that if I see the other as a victim, then it's almost like my drishti keeps them in that mode. It's almost like my energy doesn't allow them to grow out of that conditioning of seeing themselves as a victim. But if I see them as an eternal soul, my brother, my sister, child belonging to God, and have the drishti of the fullness of that soul, it's like on a subtle level, that is the energy that will help the soul to break through that conditioning. And so it's like, when I really bring in that attitude and awareness, it's like that is what that Mansa Seva is all about. It's like our awareness of what Baba has told us has to become so deep that we break through and see beyond what appears to be the roles of the actors around us. And as much as it is important, I realized in that meditation to see the so-called souls not as victims. In the same light, it was just as equally important not to see souls as perpetrators either. To actually see them as souls belonging to this tree, this one family, because only then can my vibration and my attitude of compassion reach out on a subtle level and create that shift, create that change, that shift that is needed. So that is another, like, an eternal principle that Baba has told us. We all belong to each other. And if we look at it in the cycle, and especially from the Copper Age onwards, there has been so much of segregation and division, and how much of that has become the conditioning on the soul. And so how we need to break through that and go back to that eternal principle. We are all souls belonging to the one supreme soul. We all belong to each other, and we belong to that one divine being. So a lovely awareness to cultivate and bring in within the self. And the second principle that I wanted to talk about, so the first one that creates this Mahayagya that I was sharing of, was this aspect of purity and truth. And we looked at these various elements of what is truth and the various facets of truth. And the second principle that I feel sustains this yagya, it was what created it and what sustained it. And that was this principle of renunciation. And I think when we look at it, we can see that, yes, it was Brahma Baba, Mama, and all of our daddies. It was their renunciation that created this yagya, but is also still continuing to sustain this yagya. And so when I think of renunciation, for me, renunciation is all about letting go of the I and mine. And this can creep in many, many subtle ways, but just letting go of that, releasing the self of that, and in a way just recognizing that this second principle of renunciation is really that when I let go of the I and my, it's really this whole awareness that the nature, the true nature of the soul that Baba has come to awaken is this nature of giving. I think Brij Mohan Bhai uses this example very nicely, that when you look in nature, whether it's a tree or whether it's a flower, whether it's even the sun, whatever it is, nothing in nature exists for taking. Everything is for giving. And the true nature of the soul is to give. So when Baba created this yagya and that first renunciation of I and my, and letting go of that, and to know we are here just as instruments, and allowing Baba to serve through us, and that our very existence is to give. And this awareness of why I need to give, in a way, is when I give, then I'm channeling Baba's energy. That's what I'm doing, because we never give from, just from where we are, but it's our connection through Baba that allows us to give. And that allows the growth to continue within ourselves. But I also found that if I don't give, then I'm inevitably taking. And whatever I take from, however subtle it may be, I become influenced from that which I take. It's like I come into a subtle form of bondage to that which I take from. And so it alters the energy of the soul. It influences the soul in that way. And so therefore, just beginning to hold that awareness that I'm like a conduit, I'm a channel, and allowing myself to, in a way, become present so that Baba can allow what needs to happen through me in whichever way, and not to think too much about what that giving should be, but I find just to be present and allow what needs to take place. The key checking point is always that to what extent am I freed from that sense of I and mine? Because I and mine takes many subtle forms, counting what I have done, comparing myself with others, needing acknowledgement, needing recognition. All of these things are the things that brings us into bondage. And it brings us into limitation in that way. So the more I give myself that opportunity just to let go and let be in a way, and just keep the self clean so that I allow Baba's energy to work through me. And then the third principle that holds this Mahayagya and sustains this Mahayagya is tapasya. And when I think of tapasya, it's like we know that there can be no transformation of ourselves or of the drama around us without that deep connection with Baba. So when we talk of tapasya, tap is that fire of love, that deep connection, that deep sense of just being with Baba. So allowing that, using my connection with Baba as the power to shift things, to shift energy around. And in that way, these are three of the main principles that I feel that are the key elements that has created this yagya: purity, and then of course renunciation, and the third one of tapasya. So I wanted to just share a few sort of yuktis and practices. One of the first things is talking about tapasya, always to keep the focus steady on my relationship with Baba. I like this aspect that Baba raised in a Avyak Murli, I think 2 or 3 weeks back. Baba said that don't allow the curtain of situations to come between you and me. And it's something that we have to pay attention to, because what sometimes can happen is where we allow the situation to dominate our thinking, to And when we allow it to dominate our thinking, it begins to also influence my feelings, and then it begins to sit in the heart. So just this whole aspect of constantly making the drama small. Don't make the drama big, make the drama small. See the drama as just for this moment what it is. We have the tool of being the detached observer, and keep reducing its impact almost in a way. Um, one of the things that I often tell myself, South Africa, when we open the newspapers or we look on the news, there's always such dramatic stories of corruption, and you often think that there's such potential, but how that potential is lost because of corruption. And sometimes it can become quite a heated conversation around it, but it's just to know it's the end of the cycle. So why get shocked? It's where people are at in their worst state almost, it's a tamo pradhan world. So I find just reminding myself that this is where the world is at, and not to expect anything more. But when I make the drama small, then what it does for me is that it keeps my heart lighter. And so that I can feel that I can connect and be with Baba, rather than letting the scenes of the drama become that curtain between me and God. And nothing is so important that it can take that place in that way. So the next aspect as well that I would like to share, and it's related to the Murli of this last Sunday, and that is, learning to keep still inside. It's almost, don't let the mind become noisy. And Baba gave us a beautiful method. He said, just put the dot. Don't say why, but fly, and just put the dot. And I found that, for the self, it's to come back to putting the dot, for me, has been about coming back to essence, coming back to not to get into the expansion of things, coming back to essence. Also, it has been about, seeing, really watching, and also paying attention, and also cultivating that deeper faith in the benevolence of the drama, and that deeper faith in Baba's love and protection, that deeper faith in my own destiny in that way, to know that, that deep feeling, I am Baba's and Baba will take care of me in that regard. So as I come back into the essence of just knowing that what is really important, what is really valuable, what is of significance, coming back to that essence helps then to condense everything. And as I condense everything, then I can apply that dot easily. And I think one thing that I've always just told myself, and that is that truth reveals itself. I shared this earlier, but to be able to come back to that essence and be able to put that full stop, so that I remain to what is true and important and meaningful, and not get caught up in the expansion and things like that. It is really that nothing needs to be proven. With time, everything will show. itself, you know, of what needs, of what it is. And so it keeps the self free and it's helped me to stay focused on what is important and what is meaningful for me, in terms of where I need to invest my energy and where it is that I need to stay focused on. And the 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 next aspect that I wanted to share as well is really that, Baba says that where there is truth, the soul will dance. There'll be that lightness. And so I always like checking that any kind of heaviness inside means that I have moved away from some level of clarity, essence, and the deeper principles that Baba has shared with me. And so that always, that way, if I am being so conscious, if I am staying in alignment with Baba's Srimad, then there will be that lightness. I don't have to feel heavy, and it's like the soul can dance with the drama. It's almost like that lightness means that whatever comes my way, there's an ability to flow with it, not to resist it, um, and and also to know when to move forward and when to allow to let things unfold as they need to. Because sometimes I found that we can get into this thing of wanting to make things happen. But um, I found that what we need to do is really just to stay very centered, and through that connection with Baba, just to watch and dance, and to feel that lightness, and know that whatever it is does pass by as well. Um, and then the final thing, as well, that I would like to share, and that was also based something on Sunday's Murli. And Baba was talking about how you claim the right to rulership. And he was saying how the right to rulership is through self-sovereignty. And I found it very interesting because in the Lokic world, rights is always associated with privileges, and therefore people strive for positions and all of these things so that they can have certain rights and privileges that comes with that. But what Baba is saying is, when we become the self-sovereign, that's internal sovereignty helps us to claim the rights. So it's like the other way. I make myself worthy, and that worthiness claims the rights. And so I don't then chase after things, but it's like I begin to hold a certain level of dignity which comes from that aspect of self-sovereignty. So where there's truthfulness, there's a lot of dignity. Where there's truthfulness, there's lightness, the soul is carefree. Where there's truthfulness, there's stability, because I'm able to see things for what they are. And I don't get caught up in thinking what I think it should be, but I'm able to see things for what they are. And as a result, it just allows the soul to remain stable and light. So, yeah, a couple of practical things that I find that are important for us. one thing that was very beautiful that was shared with us, we had a national retreat about a month or so ago, and we had Shushma Didi from Jaipur who had come for that national retreat. And one of the things that she highlighted and emphasized, which I felt was very significant and relevant for all of us at this time, she really shared, um, the importance of study. And it's almost like our 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 intellects, the more we study and allow Baba's Murli to be absorbed within our being, the more subtle it becomes. And she shared something, and she put a challenge forward, actually. She said, we have over 1,000 Murlis, Avyak Murlis from 1969. And she said, that's our syllabus. The exams are going to be soon. And so the question is, have we completed our syllabus? And I found that that's very important in a way, and it's inspired all of us to really go through our Avyak Murlis and really to study them. Over 1,000 Murlis, everything that Baba needed to tell us, he's told us. But have I studied it? Have I revised it? Have I sort of absorbed my own thinking? To what extent am I allowing my thinking to be influenced by what Baba has been sharing with me? So I found that has been a lovely challenge, and a lovely focus to create for the self, and in a way to keep checking the self, that I am, by my thinking, my response, my attitude, to what extent is my framework what Baba has said, and not the influences of the drama, and especially not the influences of my sanskaras. It's almost like to create that space for the self. And the second thing also is really, and I've spoken on it, but this whole aspect of really keeping the heart clean so that only Baba sits in there. And I found that at this time when there's a lot of uncertainty, there's a lot of many things happen, etc. To have the clarity of what's the next step that I need to take, it's almost like I need to stay still with Baba. For me, this is a time now where the more we make our intellect subtle, the more we give Baba the chance to touch the intellect. It's not the time for intelligence and logic. It's not the time for that anymore. It is really the time to allow my connection with Baba to guide me and navigate through the drama right now. So I'm finding that more and more the importance of where we are right now is really to let go of expansion, to let go of things I don't have to give energy to be very selective and clear where I'm focusing myself, and that really it is just Baba and Baba and Baba's Murli, and not to allow other influences to seep in, because influences are subtle and they seep in. You know, during COVID time and even now, there were so many conspiracy theories around, right? And you could get lost in all of those things. And it's just drama. It's just the end of the cycle. It's no point trying to uncover and fathom it out, all of that. So right now, just let Baba and Baba's Murli be my world, because that is what's going to be the inner compass that's going to guide me through and help me navigate through where I need to be. So yeah, those were some of my thoughts and reflections on this topic of aligning with truth. And I'll be happy to take questions now. Maria, thank you.
Thank you so much. You give us so many points that we have to reflect on them and be honest with ourselves, because yes, whatever you said is so important, but there is a but which has to be removed. And I have written down so many points of what you shared, and I really need to look into myself and how I'm not influenced by external things, and especially the drama, and see the drama very small. Well, this is very important because we made a big deal of the drama. And I don't mean about the situations all around us, but also in the Brahmin family, because there are many things happening and we give them so much energy, and that is really taking away our energy, and we forget all the beautiful things that Baba says. So yes, there are many points. I write it down. I don't see any questions, and whatever you explained was really very important for all of us. I think that someone has something to say. Of course, everything was very deep, and really, what I keep from that is truth will always be really revealed, and because what is truth for some people, their truth is not Baba's truth, and if we follow Baba's Srimad, we will be with Baba all the time and Baba's truth, and we don't care about the truth of others. So we have to be aligned with the truth, Baba's truth, and be with Baba all the time. And stay still with Baba and be with Baba's Srimad. So many things. Thank you so much. I don't see any questions though, because I think what should we check for subtle misalignments from truth? Any tips?
I think some of them I have shared in a way, but I'll highlight again. Heaviness. I think heaviness is like a very immediate indicator that I'm off some way, you know, in my thinking, in my attitude, in my drishti, whatever. And that immediately will create a subtle form of heaviness. I'm being influenced by something outside of me. And for me, the second indicator as well is that even when I try to sit and remember Baba and be with Baba, my intellect is not steady. And for me, that as well is an indicator that there's been some kind of a misalignment somewhere along the line. And it's not always very obvious, but I need to have that, you know, a reflection to say, where is it being pulled to and why, in a way. So this, if there's clarity and if there's cleanliness, then I will have a natural, easy flow to be with Baba. But where there's a difficulty and where there's a kind of an obstacle in that connection in a way, then that's where I have to check, what have I absorbed that is creating this? Yeah. And just one more thing I'd like to share, as you were sharing that how everyone has their own truth, but how I need to stay true with Srimad that Baba's given me, and that keeps me in alignment. When I stay true to what Baba's telling me, I am staying true to myself. That's what I'm doing. Baba's truth is my truth. There's not a difference in a way. But part of that is that even if others are maybe sitting differently from where I am at, I will have a feeling of compassion or love. There isn't a feeling of disconnection because they think differently or they feel differently, but there'll be a feeling of love. And I think that aspect is very important as well, that love and truth are two sides of the same coin. You can't say I'm being truthful, but there isn't a feeling of love. And you can't say I'm being loving, but there isn't the honesty and the clarity and the transparency that is needed. Love and truth are two sides of the same coin.
That's really very important to understand, because sometimes some souls say, I love you, this is why I'm telling you, but what you're doing is not correct. And this is the truth. And I'm honest and I'm telling you that, but there is no love or compassion in the attitude. You have to understand deeply what love is and what compassion is. Otherwise, if you don't understand them, these two qualities, then you don't have a connection with the truth, actually.
Yeah. And that's why, when we look at the dadis could tell souls and could direct souls because they had so much of love behind it, so when they gave that clarity, it there was so much power behind that, that it gave the soul the capacity to imbibe as well, to move beyond that limitation. So it wasn't with an agenda, I'm going to tell you what your faults are. No, it was always with this vision, I have a bigger vision for you. And that's what they were always gently guiding us towards. And so that's what love and truth is all about, that when there is that love, then it will never feel like a correction, but it will feel like a support to help me move forward. Yeah.
Yes, that's true. And that is really an example for all of us. And we hope that we will reach this point. So what's this? Pratiba Ben says that there is a difference between being soul conscious and Manman above, which I interpreted as being God conscious. Because even if and when I'm soul conscious, I, the soul, is not Sato Pradhan yet. So being soul conscious may not align me with truth and with the truth.
No, I wasn't saying that there's a difference. I was saying that being soul conscious is an eternal truth that I have to always align myself with. And that when I am in soul consciousness, then I can be connected with Baba. I can't be connected without that. If there's any trace of taking in a limited way, then that becomes the curtain between me and Baba. So, it is very much the experience and the connection with Baba that transforms the soul and purifies the soul. But I have to pay that attention to remain in alignment with that eternal truth that Baba has told me, that I am a soul. I hope that clarifies it. Okay.
I think it's very clear.
Yeah.
Soul consciousness is a prerequisite anyway, says the soul, although being soul conscious is my authentic nature.
Absolutely. Absolutely.